welcome back to the program. It's 5 to 8 in the a.m. and just in time for our morning discussion. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I'm sure is on all of your minds as of late, climate change. And climate change is widely seen as the largest and most pervasive threat to our natural environment and human society has ever even experienced. So it is not surprising that climate change is also now the main policy agenda in various countries and an important issue when it comes to general elections.
Yes, Paul, a recent study has suggested that climate change issues could help decide the outcome of next year's elections and that political parties have yet, unfortunately, to make these issues a priority on their platforms as well as future campaigns. Joining us today to discuss these findings are the Indonesian Node Chair at Monash Climate Change Communication Research Hub, Ika Idris and Derry Wijaya, Monash University Indonesia Data and Democracy Research Hub Co-Director. Good morning and welcome to See Today. Let's discuss more about this. I think it's a very interesting finding, right?
Yes.
That this issue is very determining, yet we didn't, political leaders did not pay enough attention or awareness.
Well, campaigning hasn't officially started, so we have yet to see whether or not this becomes a larger part of their agenda.
But at least like in several appearances, this issue hasn't been touched deeply.
Not on the forefront yet, but again, still early days. So let's start off with Mbak Derry, first of all, before diving into the climate change issue within the political environment. Could you share with us an overview regarding the research that has been done so far?
Yeah, so regarding the research, our center is focused on data-driven research.
Okay.
So we focus on collecting data from social media about the discussion on climate change by politicians. And we also have done research and analysis on the vision and mission document of the presidential candidates. And based on this data, what we do is on the social media posts, we take a look at the topics, like when politicians talk about climate change, how do they talk about it? What do they focus on? So that's the first goal. And regarding the vision and mission document of the presidential candidates, we want to take a look at what areas they focus most on.
Okay.
And this is the goal of our research, especially in relation to climate change.
Are we just talking like specifically directly about climate change? For example, air quality and how it's being affected by climate change, or just other things as well that can affect climate change? For example, public transportation, that can somehow be related to climate change. Are we just talking an overview or specific issues?
Yeah, so we actually, for the social media post, we have 40 very comprehensive keywords.
Okay.
So not only about climate change, but also about flooding, pollution, drought, even security, food security. And
Environmental issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate more on the methodology that you applied during the data collections, and then as well as what are the most interesting findings in the study that you find?
Yeah, so for the social media posts, we focus on Facebook pages as we find that there is...
Why Facebook though, not like some younger platforms, quote unquote?
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, because Facebook is the most popular platform so far, and then it's being used by the politicians. So not all politicians are on other platforms like TikTok.
Right.
And then Facebook, the data that we collected is from the Facebook page.
Okay.
And we know most of the Facebook page of the politician also connected to the Instagram page.
Right.
So instead
get
of
both, basically.
get both, like we just focusing on the Facebook pages.
And I believe that on Facebook, especially on pages, a lot more discussions happen there.
Yeah.
And with Instagram or TikTok, there's commenting, but it's more one way as opposed to a Facebook where it's more open to discussions, right, as well. So let's talk a little bit in regards to the
one that lack of focus on the...
Yeah. Well, we know that so basically out of your research, we know that the politicians do talk about these issues as well, but it's not yet connected to, like what Alin said, part of their early campaigning perhaps, or perhaps some of the issues that they bring up in order to get more in touch with the possible voters later on when it comes to the elections. Why do you think that is?
So let me address that. Yeah. So we have to research. One is using historical data. We
Okay.
actually want to see the level of understanding and action of the politician. We want to understand their agenda.
Okay.
Because we know that by looking into that, we can see whether they really focus on that issues or they really understand, because they have the power to shape policies and regulations, right? So when we look at the historical data, we look for 3.5 years, from 2019 until last July. And then we collected data not only from politicians from executive branch, but also from legislative branch and also local leaders like governors,
Right.
mayors. And then when we look at the historical data, from 157, it's only around 61% politicians posted about climate change. We use 40 keywords like Mbak Derry mentioned.
Okay.
So 980, and then we end up having like 980 posts, and it's really small. At first we thought like, I even asked the researcher, can you look at the data again? And then it's really small. And then we conducted the topic modeling analysis to see what are the topics of the post. Yeah. And then when we look at the...
Is this what we're looking at right now then?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
And then when we look at the topics, there are 8 main topics, yeah, we generated from the post. And then the top 4 on our left, it's actually related to the macro policy, like
Yes.
Indonesia leadership in G20, Jakarta achievement in sustainable transportation, mangrove, and then economic recovery. Yeah.
Okay.
But when we look at the list 4, it's actually there are actually issues that are impacted directly to the society. You know, like agriculture and food security,
Yes.
clean water and extreme weather, the awareness, the solidarity, and then young generation of Indonesia climate change. So most politicians, when they talk about climate change, remember this is not only executive branch, yeah, also legislative branch. We also have chief of political parties, we also have governors. So when they talk about climate change, they talk mainly about macro policies, global policies, and partnership. If you look at from the...
More political, isn't it, for lack of a better
If you
word?
look at from the other perspective, yeah, it could be a promising, yeah, like Indonesia, we talk about it.
Sure.
But policies take sometimes to be implemented.
Of course.
And then it's not really directly impacted the soil. It's not related to our daily lives, yeah. But sadly, those issues that impacted to our daily lives
On the right.
are the least posted. The current survey by Yale Climate Change Communication, apparently Indonesian, when they surveyed through 3,000 Indonesian, when we talk about climate change, we do care about the clean water, drought, and the extreme weathers. But the politicians, they don't really talk about it, yeah?
So why do you think that is, Maika? I mean, it would make perfect sense for me if I was a politician. If I'm trying to get that young voice, we do know that there was a recent survey, correct?
This alignment between what matters most to the livelihoods of the people.
Right.
Yet
Yeah.
Why do you think
this
that connection has not been made
discussed.
yet?
Yeah.
So because first, if I want to focus on G20, yeah?
Okay.
We all know that during the G20, there was a massive orchestration of G20 narrative that this is a successful event.
Correct.
That government agencies, even individuals in government agencies, they were instructed to post, to say something, to make these events bigger, yeah, to make this as
Create
a big
a
event.
hype.
Yeah, create a hype, or like orchestrating the narrative or G20. So that's why for the G20. Another reason, you know that climate policies and economic interests, they're overlap, yeah?
Yes.
And it shows from this study that apparently the economic interests matter most
but
to
larger,
the
yes.
politician other than the daily problem that we counter. So I think it's time now to make your agenda relatable to the voters.
Can I play devil's advocate here? Couldn't the government officials argue that we're actually zooming out and looking at the issues on the left as more of a big picture scheme where, yes, it will take longer to implement, but then it's a longer term plan as well, which will eventually trickle down to those issues that we are more concerned about on the right side that directly affects us?
Yeah, but that also has consequence.
Okay.
The consequence, right now, another survey mentioned that our awareness or young people awareness to the climate change is still low, like 44%.
Okay.
But I believe that's because the main public discourse, the main narrative, they don't really touch that issues.
Okay.
And
We're not
then
being
when we want
exposed
to
to it.
talk about G20 and then make it relatable to the grassroots voters, it's really hard, yeah.
Right.
So I think it's now time, especially for politicians, for everyone, legislative candidate who will be running for this election. It's now time to switch your agenda and focus more on like human rights aspect. Like clean water and food security is part of the human rights aspect, yeah. Not only economic interest of the climate change.
Yes, we all have a right to clean air and clean water.
Indeed. So how important is climate change issue for younger voters? Because we have like a shifting demography of the voters, right? We have now young and younger voters in the 2024 elections.
I believe 52% of voters this time are going to be of the younger generation as
Yes.
well. And we do have a national survey from 2021 that states that 82% of those eligible voters do care about climate change. So the numbers are there. So
Yeah.
do you think there will be this shift when campaigning does begin, at least?
I guess from our analysis of the vision and mission document, we haven't seen that.
Okay.
We haven't seen that happen. What we saw are, again, focus on green economy and blue economy. But again, the devils is in the details, right? So
You're right.
the implementation of how we can achieve sustainable environment through green economy, blue economy is not yet clear, at least from the vision and mission document. However, one of the candidates is a bit different than the other two because he talks more towards the fairness and equality about climate. So like he talks about how the use of natural resources that resulted in the climate change is being unequally distributed. However, the impact of climate will be equally felt by everybody.
Of course.
So that means when we are thinking about developing and thinking about economy, we have to think also in terms of a vision that has an ecological vision inside it.
So how can the political leaders as well as our politicians can translate this issue for their campaign?
So beside this study, we actually invited political leaders, senior journalists, and then political consultants. Yeah, we want to see whether they want to talk about it, talk about climate change. And apparently, when we talk to the political parties, they said we want to talk about it because we know there's voters who think this important. Yeah, but then we don't know how. Especially if our legislative candidates or calegs, they are from older generation,
Right.
yeah, or they can make sure they are very confident that they can secure the next seat in the legislative branch. So it's not that they don't want to; they really want to because they know there's markets, political markets, but they just don't know how.
Okay.
So I think the best way because we are from universities, climate change communication, so the best way is to assist them. So what we did is we have a guidebook here. So we write.
Can I have a look at that?
Look. Okay. So we have a guidebook for politicians if they want to campaign about climate change. So it's basically a guidebook for political campaign. We put there how to talk about climate change to grassroots voters. And also we touch if your voters come from religious community, this is how to talk about climate change to Muslim. This is how to talk about climate change to Christian. This is how to talk about climate change to media, to CSO, because sometimes, you know, like politicians, they were afraid to NGOs, so we assist them. We even like conducted 2 workshops so far. But you know what is interesting? So besides how to talk about climate change, we also had workshops how to create engaging visuals on climate change.
Okay.
You know that the visual materials for campaigns usually like the politicians, pictures, like
their official profile.
But Derry has really interesting studies related to the visuals and climate change. Yeah. So what she did, do you want to talk about it, Derry, your workshop?
So,
What's your idea?
yeah, it's about using generative AI to help you create a more engaging visual.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
That would be
visual
very
campaign
modern
for
and
climate.
different and thought-provoking as well, right? Because you can generate these images of what possibly the future could be if we
Right.
don't tackle these
Yeah.
problems.
And then from our social media data,
Yes.
we have posts with highest engagement, and we analyze the visuals. So if you have elements like a sky or the green or like showing sustainable transportation or sustainable energy instead of just the face of the politician,
Yes.
it's actually, they have highest
More
engagement.
engagement.
Yeah, of
More
course.
engagement.
Of course.
Instead of just politicians
Well, those
attending conferences.
We see those pictures everywhere, and then it doesn't really stick in our minds anymore because we think, oh, that's just how it's supposed to be done. So it would be nice to see a change in that direction. But from a voter's point of view, I mean, I may not be young, but I am a voter, and I do care about climate change. Is there anything we can do to make them care more about these issues and to post more about these issues, because they should know that this is what we care about and we would like them to address it? Is there anything that we can do on our end?
Yeah, I think the best thing what we can do is to keep pushing. This might be sound like a cliche, yeah, but what we want to see as voters from the past 2 elections, we always have debates, right?
Sure.
Presidential debates,
Yes.
VP debates, but the debates set by KPU or the Election Commission, they put the climate change and environmental issues in the same section with infrastructure and energy. That's not wrong, because the climate change and environment, they're also related to energy and infrastructure. But last election, it's all about infrastructure. So we need to, even though they are the climate change and environment issue, they are putting together with the same section, yeah. But we want to see that the candidates talk more about environment, climate change, instead of just the infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So maybe a different angle of attack when it comes to these topics. And it would be great, ideally, for them to, you know, dedicate a particular segment of the debate just on this topic alone, because that would be something I would be interested to see. I would like to know all of the candidates and what their takes and their perspective is, especially in this coming immediate term. We all know about 2050 and 2060, but honestly, I'm getting a little bit old. I would like to enjoy cleaner air in the nearer future as opposed to the later. Wow, this is really great stuff. Thank you so much. And this is a great guide, by the way. It is a guide strictly for politicians.
What are your impressions after you?
Well, looking through, first of all, it provides data, it provides information, it provides pictures. Like, for example, like stuff like this is great visual. I love seeing visuals like this if I saw this on social media, and I'm not even a politician. So this should really give them like a good grasp and idea as to how severe this situation really is and how necessary it is to tackle these issues, especially during the next elections.
So I want to find out more about your insights regarding the narrative built by the current administrations on climate change. What we most talk about is transition to EV, but not other things. What are your insights on this?
So there was a research also by CASE project, ISR. They are focusing on energy transition. But so it's like monitoring news and media for, I forgot, for a certain duration, yeah. But when we look at the narrative of the energy transition, you know, like the narrative were created by whoever has the voice in that narrative, right? And then most of the narrative about energy transition was by design. It's like if you have a PR events, if you have press conferences, something like that, if you have staging events, so then the media will talk about it. If not, there's no news or other information related to energy transition yet. So that's why the approach for energy transition, it's, according to me, it's like really elite-based instead of focusing what the grassroots or what the people are really needed from the energy transition. So that's the narrative that I see. So I think right now, all of us, like having this topic this morning, it's important to keep the conversation going and alive, yeah. Otherwise, it will be driven by the
overshadowed, yeah, by the other
or by
issues.
the business interests or like elite agenda. So I think
I agree.
we need more.
Yeah, when we talk about EVs, you know, we talk about the business of EVs, but let's talk more about the impact and the environment. Or perhaps show the visual behind you, because that can be very disturbing as well. That's not something that we would want to see in the coming years. Thank you so much for coming on our program to discuss this very important issue. We do hope that this younger voting, a lot of new voters also taking part in this election as well, we hope that they're able to shift the dynamic of the important topics that need to be discussed.
Yes.
We thank you both.
Thank you, Ibu Ika Idris and Ibu Derry Wijaya, for coming to our studio and discussing.
Thank you for having us.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take another short break here on our program. Before we do so, though, I want to send you a quick reminder to follow our social media accounts if you haven't already. You can find us on Instagram, x.com, and YouTube at CToday News. We'll be right back.